Hey guys, let's talk about something that used to be super simple, but now feels kind of messed up: productivity. Remember when being productive actually meant getting some relief? Like, it wasn't about success or how cool you looked. It was just about getting stuff done so you could chill out earlier. You'd organize your time, and boom, you had some space in your life again. Productivity was just a handy tool, not who you were. Finish up faster, kick back longer. That was the vibe. For a while, that worked. Right. Back when things were slower, being productive meant you actually got to enjoy those extra hours. If you could do a task in 5 hours instead of 8, those 3 hours, all yours. You'd head home, disconnect, and nothing would bug you. But guess what? That version of productivity, it's gone. Not because we changed, but because everything else did. Somewhere along the line, being efficient stopped giving us freedom and started piling on more demands. When you got faster, instead of getting more time, you just ended up with more responsibilities. The system noticed. Emails. You answered them quicker, so now everyone expects instant replies. Tasks. You completed them faster, so deadlines started creeping up on you. Productivity didn't really reduce the workload. It just changed what was expected of you. And here's the kicker that most people totally miss. No one told us this was happening. There was no big meeting or announcement. It just snuck up on us as tools got better and systems evolved. People kept trying to optimize their efforts, thinking that if they worked hard enough, they'd finally get some breathing room. But nah, the rules had already changed. Now, being productive doesn't mean you're done. It just means you're ready for the next batch of work. And that's where the trap kicks in. A lot of folks feel confused instead of just plain tired. They're not lazy. They're just worn out because their hard work isn't turning into rest anymore. They're doing everything. Right planning, tracking, optimizing, but it never feels like it's enough. In today's world, being efficient means you're just getting started on the next load of tasks. And honestly, that can be pretty frustrating. All right, that's my take on it. What do you guys think? All right, guys, let's talk about something that's been on my mind. The real issue with productivity today, it's not that we have to work more, it's that it makes us feel like we're always on call. So here's the deal. In today's world, if you're fast, it doesn't mean you're super skilled. Nah. It just means you've got extra time on your hands. And guess what? That spare time, it's seen as wasted time. When you reply quicker or get stuff done faster, the system doesn't go, awesome, they're all done. Nope, it thinks, cool, they can take on more. That's the big shift we're facing. Productivity used to be something personal, like a little win for you. Now, it's like a public scoreboard. Your calendar, it doesn't just show what you're up to. It also shows what else you could be doing. Your efficiency. It doesn't bring peace and quiet. It just makes you more visible. And that visibility, it invites people to take more from you. And here's the kicker. Those productivity tools that are supposed to help, they can feel kinda mean, right? Task managers aren't asking if you're done. They want to know what's next. And analytics. They don't celebrate when you finish something. They just want to see you keep going. Empty space on your calendar? Yeah, that's seen as wasted potential. So every time you make progress, it just gets sucked back into the system. Not because anyone's being cruel, but because that's how it works. The systems we're in are all about maximizing output, not about taking care of us. Once you notice this pattern, it gets pretty clear. The more efficient you are, the less downtime you're allowed. It's not like anyone's outright telling you to work less. They just give you fewer reasons to take a break. Deadlines get tighter. Response times become the norm. And those quick checks, they just keep piling up. At first glance, everything seems reasonable. But that's the sneaky part. When pressure comes at you in small, logical doses, people don't fight back. They adapt and push harder. They think the answer is to get better systems or routines in place. But here's the truth. You can't just power through a system that's built to take all your energy. Eventually, productivity shifts from being about doing things well to just trying to stay ahead of the demand. and staying ahead. That's an never-ending race. This is when folks start feeling like they're always behind, even if they're actually making progress. It's not because they're not doing well, it's because the finish line just keeps moving further away. So let's keep this in mind, okay? Balance is key, and we've got to watch out for those sneaky productivity traps. All right, guys, let's dive into this whole productivity thing. So here's the deal. People aren't chasing productivity because it's super effective. Nah, they're chasing it because it feels safe. In a world that's kinda shaky, being productive becomes like a security blanket, you know? When the future's all up in the air, doing more makes you feel like you've got some control. And let's be real, when you can't control layoffs, algorithms, or market crashes, looking busy is the one thing you can manage. That little illusion? Yeah, it's pretty powerful. Productivity is like this. Promise, if I keep hustling, I'll be all right. Not happy, not fulfilled, just safe. That's why we see productivity culture booming when the economy's in a rough spot. When folks feel like they could be replaced at any moment, they try to make themselves irreplaceable. And when your identity feels shaky, how much you produce becomes your badge of worth. Busyness stops being just a way to get stuff done. It becomes your validation. Now, here's where things get sticky. Productivity isn't just about getting results anymore, it's about who you are. You're not just doing productive stuff, you are productive. And once that gets tangled up with your identity, taking a break feels like guilt. Slowing down, that feels irresponsible. Just chilling out, that feels like failing, even if no one's watching, especially when no one's watching. That's the quiet struggle that no one talks about. A lot of the pressure we feel is self-inflicted. It's because systems have turned judgment into numbers and metrics. When your performance is always being measured, you start to internalize that judgment. You don't need a boss looking over your shoulder, you become your own worst critic. Every moment of downtime turns into a nagging question. Could I be doing more? And since the system never tells you what enough is, the answer's always yes. That's why burnout doesn't hit you like a brick wall at first. It feels more like you're falling behind. You're not exhausted. You feel inefficient. You're not overwhelmed. You feel unoptimized. So instead of hitting pause, people just push harder. They try new routines, grab new tools, and dive into new frameworks, all to fix a problem that isn't about how much you can do, but about setting some boundaries. But here's the kicker. Boundaries don't just magically appear in a system that's all about squeezing out every last drop. You have to build them yourself. And here's the tough truth. Productivity didn't fail us. Nope. It did exactly what it was meant to do: maximized output. It just didn't look out for the humans doing the work. Okay, that's a lot to chew on, but it's something we really need to think about. Let's keep the conversation going. All right? Many people mistakenly believe that the opposite of productivity is laziness. In reality, it is leverage. Being unproductive does not mean resting. Rather, rest is essential for rejuvenating our creative capacity. The real shift occurs when we change our focus from "how much can I accomplish" to what truly compounds over time. This perspective disrupts conventional thinking. Compounding rewards thoughtful positioning over uniform effort. For example, 1 hour spent creating something reusable can yield more than 10 hours of repetitive tasks. A single decision that reduces friction can produce results greater than months of fun. However, productivity culture often overlooks leverage as it doesn't showcase visible effort. In environments where busyness equals worth, invisible efforts may seem dubious. Consequently, high-leverage work can feel unsettling. It doesn't resemble traditional work and lacks immediate productivity indicators. You might find yourself contemplating without checklists or dashboards, leading to discomfort that causes many to avoid such tasks. Productivity provides immediate emotional feedback, fostering a sense of usefulness and responsibility. In contrast, leveraging time and resources can feel irresponsible due to the absence of daily progress metrics. The clear metrics of productivity offer comfort, pulling us back into familiar routines, not necessarily because they are effective, but because they provide security. The tragedy lies in people exhausting themselves on low-leverage tasks, while high-leverage opportunities remain unexplored and perceived as risky. This isn't about taking unnecessary risks. It's about the discomfort of redefining our self-image and how we communicate our efforts. For instance, explaining that you spent a day contemplating a system might sound unproductive despite its value. Systems often reward visible hustle over the subtlety of invisible strategies, yet these strategies lead to long-term success. Embracing this shift does not mean abandoning hard work. It involves rethinking how we measure progress. We move from measuring time to valuing decisions, from tasks to systems, and from output to trajectory. As this transition occurs, we start measuring our days by their impact rather than their fullness, even if that impact is minimal. Ultimately, the productivity culture falters not when people stop working, but when they realize they have been optimizing the wrong metrics. This realization is where true resistance begins. Productivity culture is inescapable. You live within it. Attempting to completely opt out often leads to another form of performance, where you no longer chase productivity metrics, but instead strive to be different. You might swap hustle for minimalism or grind for wellness optimization, but the cycle remains unchanged. Balance is often ineffective because it assumes two opposing forces can be managed evenly. However, productivity culture is not a singular force. It permeates everything. It influences incentives, language, and what we consider normal. The essential question is not how to escape this culture, but how to stop allowing it to dictate yourself. Many pieces of advice fail here because worth is not a switch you can turn off. It's a habit that must be unlearned gradually. This unlearning is subtle and does not resemble rebellion. It manifests in small choices, resisting the urge to react immediately, leaving gaps unfilled, and refraining from constant self. It's about allowing some days to be sufficient, not necessarily optimized or maximized. This approach is not laziness. It's about setting psychological boundaries. You continue to work, build, and care, but you stop viewing every moment as a performance. Productivity often serves as a way to manage anxiety rather than a reflection of ambition. It provides a sense of control in uncertain times. Recognizing this shifts your perspective. You don't abandon productivity. Instead, you reframe it as a tool rather than a measure of self. When productivity loses its moral weight, your work experience changes. You can leverage your efforts without guilt, rest without justification, and move at your own pace without feeling inadequate. This transformation is not about changing the system, but altering your relationship with it. It's not ixily marketed, as it cannot be packaged into a routine or a method. Instead, it involves a gradual separation of output from identity. Ultimately, the goal is not to do less or more, but to realize that your value is not defined by completed tasks. Once you grasp this, the pressure may not vanish, but it will no longer control you.